And good morning, everyone, and welcome to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. We've got a super jam-packed show lined up today, which I'm super excited about. And as you know, always you can listen to our show via the podcast link on the smallbizmatters.com.au website, which is always available to you listeners. Plus, you can like us on Facebook, and also we have a Facebook page and a page for all of our sponsors too. This show is proudly sponsored by Snap Waitara and Boyd Office Management Services, proud supporters of Triple H, which I always have to say. Welcome to the show, my special guest, Linda Eagleton.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show today. It's going to be super. I can't believe how much we're going to try and cram into the show. Linda and I met a couple of weeks ago to discuss this topic, and many of you would know I have a slight insane passion when it comes to admin, and funnily enough, so does Linda.
Yes.
So we're all going to be talking very excitedly. So welcome to the show. Linda is from a wonderful business, local business called Creative Surrounds. And first of all, I'd like to introduce you, explain what it is that you do a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your background, because I think what's fascinating about the people who work and live in Hornsby is we come from such a diverse range of backgrounds when we come into our businesses. You know, a lot of people come from a corporate and then work into their own small business. Some people just started these things from the ground up. Some people started when they had kids. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you into this area of expertise.
Yeah, well, my background is a mixture of marketing and project management in a corporate sense. That was my prior life. And I've also studied interior decorating. And then essentially went on maternity leave and sat there thinking, okay, what do I want to do moving forward? Wasn't particularly happy in a corporate setting, and just looked at all of my passions and skill sets and sort of put them together essentially, and that's where this business came about. You know, I was sort of researching and realised that there was such a thing as a professional organiser, and thought, you know, had that aha moment, and that's how Creative Surrounds was born.
And isn't that one of the greatest things about small business, is that you can create your own niche and you can create and develop your own business idea. You don't have to fit anyone else's mould.
Absolutely. Well, even within professional organising, there's so many different areas. Like some people specialise in, you know, downsizing. Some people focus on more, you know, people getting ready to sell their homes. Some people do general decluttering. There's, you know, all sorts of different niches within the industry. So.
And you yourself, you've been quite involved in the executive and the body behind professional organising as well, haven't you?
Yeah, there's an industry body. It's the AAPO, a very bit of a mouthful. It's the Australasian Association of Professional Organisers. And because I've had the business for about 8 years now. And they were very supportive, you know, particularly at the beginning. I got really involved and became a member quite quickly and joined their PR and marketing subcommittee because that was my background. So it made sense to kind of get in and be involved in that way. And, you know, it's all volunteer positions, and it's a really great way to see what's going on in the industry, to gain knowledge on what's going on. And then also they have an accreditation process as well. So once you start building up hours within your business, you go through the processes and become, the first step is an accomplished member, and then there's an expert accreditation process through them. So there's continual self-development. They have conferences, usually annually, and just great network as well.
And if you are thinking about engaging with a professional organiser, definitely, or in fact, really any facet of small business, if you want to be assured and make sure that you've got that quality control, then find someone through those professional organisations, and then you can be sure that that person is accredited and has their continual education going on. And
absolutely,
that sort of thing.
We all have to abide. Like, there is a code of conduct, you know, and we all make that commitment when we become members of the AAPO. We make that commitment, and that's how we're going to conduct ourselves in a professional manner. You know, things like confidentiality and privacy are really key in our industry.
They would be, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
very important.
Very important.
So today we're going to be talking about getting organised in terms of a business sense. So talking in terms of what the reason is you want to start a new year afresh, and what sort of practical strategies that you can have to actually get yourself organised. And that's what we're really about here on Small Biz Matters, is having professional, practical suggestions. I like my listeners to be able to go away with almost a bit of a checklist of things that they can do practically for their business, which is awesome. So, you know, in general, let's talk about, you know, why is it that you would want to get organised? I mean, apart from the fact that looking at a messy desk all the time actually does sort of do your head in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It does really add value.
It does.
It does, yeah.
It does. There's been some studies to do with how clutter affects people, and it's very interesting. There was a study done a few years ago, and it showed that 80% of Australians have got at least one cluttered room in their home, and out of that percentage, 40% say that they feel anxious, guilty, or depressed about their clutter. I mean, that's a really big impact on your...
I suppose there's not a lot of positive things that you can say about clutter, really, is there?
It's not really. I think it holds people back quite a lot. It's as far as, time, money, energy, mental space. It really does, in business it can really hold you back in particular. But it does. It affects your headspace, absolutely.
I often think to myself when I'm looking at that, I will be honest here and I'll throw myself on the sword. I haven't moved in my cupboards into my office for about 6 months since I've been in there.
Yeah.
And all my stuff has seriously been on the floor in boxes because I have been so frantic and busy with work that I haven't given that any thought. But if I was to add up all the time, the mental space that I've looked at those boxes, got stressed about it, thought about how I should make some time to clean it up.
Yeah.
If I added all that time together, it will probably be 3 times as much time as it would have taken to actually just do it and pick it up and clean it up.
Yeah, it's interesting how many people feel really like guilty is such a key word here. People look at these things and it's just this, you look around and clutter is like this to-do list, And
it's a physical manifestation of what you're not doing.
Yeah, and you feel like just weighed down, and that's the thing. It's at the end of organising sessions with clients, I sort of ask them, how they feel. And they're sort of, they're physically exhausted, but mentally it's like a weight's been lifted from their shoulders.
Yeah, they're really elated, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
And of course, let's talk about why this period of time is why you and I chose to have this discussion, because the beginning of the financial year is really the perfect time to renew and revisit. And why do you think that's important from a business sense?
I think when at the end of the financial year, it's a really good time to essentially reflect on the previous year, because you can look at it as a 12-month period and a financial component. So you can look at all your wins and losses and reflect on the year that's just been, and then also then put a plan and strategise and how to move forward. And it's really only once you've got sort of a full 12 months overview, I guess, that you can do that. So now is that perfect time. It's like when you're starting to think about, okay, well, I've got to do my taxes, so all of your financial paperwork will have to be in order, whether you've left it or not, that's when you have to look at that aspect of your business. So it makes sense to just sort of then look at all aspects of your business. It's a really good time to do your budget because you can look at all of your income and your expenses over the previous year and sort of project and use that moving forward.
And this is a really good opportunity for people to actually do that strange thing that none of us do, unless you're au fait with your finances, and very few people are, is to actually print out your profit and loss from last year. It doesn't have to be exactly correct to the cent, but once you've done that, maybe done that June BAS, is run that report and look at it from the previous year.
Absolutely.
And go, where did I spend more money? Where did I earn more money?
That's right. And try and, I think, break it down within the months as well, because that's when you can go, that's what's really helpful in moving forward, because you can look at when are my busy periods, when are my slower periods. No business is consistent throughout the year.
No.
I don't believe they are anyway. I've not seen it sort of thing firsthand. So you need to be able to budget moving forward. I think that's when, especially with small business, that's where a lot of people fall down, because they don't account for those downtimes, and that sort of lower income or very little income, and it's like you've got to look at, well, when are my busy periods, and make sure that you're budgeting correctly, moving forward. And
not only budgeting your money in the money sense, the budgeting sense, but actually budgeting your time.
Absolutely.
Because your down periods, if you can recognise when they are.
Yeah.
So from my perspective as a bookkeeper, my frantic, crazy periods are obviously BAS.
Yes.
And then the month after BAS is like,
I can breathe now.
And guess what? That's when I should be doing my business development.
Absolutely.
And my decluttering of the pile that's been sitting there for 6 months. That's when I should have been doing it.
Absolutely. That's when you can sit there and go, okay, well, I'm going to put some time together now and focus on my marketing strategy for the next year, and look at those down times as well and think, okay, well, are there some opportunities that I can do a bit of, some PR or some social media or some events maybe, and things like that. But you've got to be able to look at when are those downtimes?
Yes, because often you don't recognise them when they come.
No, you're there and you're like, oh, where did everyone go? You hear crickets.
Yeah. It's a really bad time at work at the moment. And you think, well, actually, no, it's just one of those lulls, which is okay as well.
Do you know what? That's the thing. You've got to use it as a positive. If you get in that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I've got, all my customers have gone away all of a sudden, or I'm down in my stock if you're selling a product or whatever it is, it's like flip that, use it as a positive time.
So let's talk about some practical tips now, just to help ourselves get organised a little bit in and around the office.
Yeah.
Bookkeeping, it's my forte. This is the time that you get your June BAS done. I know it's a busy time for a lot of people because quite often if you're involved in marketing, you might have been handed a new set of budgets by your clients, for instance. You do need to focus on getting those end-of-year books organised and sorted out. Yeah. And if you're one of these crazy people who's decided by choice to do your BAS annually, maybe now's a good time to get some help, get a bookkeeper in to sort of clear the backlog, because you're going to find yourselves, if you say to yourself, and no business should say, I don't have to do my tax till May next year, because yes, that's the deadline for accountants, but they need a good couple of months to do some good strategizing. And if you say that to yourself, guess what? You're going to be 2 years behind.
Yeah.
So now is the time to get your end of year financials sorted from a business perspective. And like you said, looking at your P&L. Now's a good time as well to be thinking about reorganizing yourself in a different structure. If you're still doing a paper thing, if you've still got a spike on your desk or you're filing away silly little receipts, which might I add are not actually going to last more than 6 months because they all fade in the sunlight nowadays. If you're still doing that, maybe now is a good time to implement a soft copy strategy and starting to get all of your receipts in soft copy. As all of you know, the ATO accepts soft copy receipts now. You don't need to keep hard copy of any documentation for the ATO at all, and that's all the way from employment all the way through to bookkeeping and receipts. And what you can actually do is start putting them into a Google Drive. Right? You don't have to implement a piece of accounting software. If you're using an Excel spreadsheet and it's working just fine for you, great. Who needs to spend hundreds of dollars on some software?
Yeah.
It's okay to do that.
I think that's the key thing, is that I don't think that there is a right or a wrong with this stuff, as long as it works for you.
And you can keep
and
on
it's
top
efficient.
Of it. Yes.
It just needs to be efficient, And even with it, because I know that is something where I know you're very sort of cloud-based and you like doing the soft copy. I am older school and I don't mind the paperwork. For me, it's a visual thing and it's part of processing to see where my money's going in, and I like to sort of manually enter it, into MYOB, and that's the thing. But I don't think that, organising systems, there's not a one size fits all.
Yes.
But
good point.
As long as it works for you and it works for your business structure as well, you've got to think about, and I think, we'll touch base on this later on, but talking about, being able to grow the business as well, it's got to be able to work for you, but then also potential other people coming into the business.
And this is why it's really good to engage with someone who is a professional, because they will tailor something to you, and that's where a good business coach or a good professional organizer or a good whatever will tailor something to you and not just ram something down your throat that doesn't suit you.
No, I will always give options to my clients. I don't think there is there is no such thing as kind of like, yep, this is the system and it's going to work across the board. I will always give options, even with filing. Some people like lateral filing, other people like vertical filing, other people want it all in the cloud. And you have to be able to give them options, let them think about it, let it marinate, what makes sense to them, and then run with that.
I like that expression, let it marinate. Let it just sit. Let it just massage into their soul. Now, another idea we came up with just creating a fresh digital signature for your emails.
Yeah.
So easy to do, isn't it?
It is really easy. I love this actually, because you can set up your stock standard, warm regards, kind regards, whatever it is, with all of your, Facebook and website links and everything underneath. But then also think about what are things that you do on a regular basis. If you are emailing out your invoices, you might already have a digital signature that says, thank you so much for being able to, provide the service to you, or whatever it is. But have a think about a message that you write continually, and rather than rewriting the same message week after week, you could have 4 different signatures. You know, have them set up. It's like whatever you might do. You might send this, you know, to certain suppliers. You might send a very similar email to several different suppliers on a regular basis. You know, make that a signature.
That's right. And for those of you who don't know how to build one of those little JPEG signature email things that go at the bottom of your email, it's a really good opportunity to put your professional organisation that you're part of.
Absolutely.
What sort of marketing you do, your LinkedIn and your Facebook. Actually, you can either have a link there or you can just mention the fact that you are on Facebook and they can find you in that way.
Yeah.
And also a couple of bullet points about the services that you provide, because often you'll provide one service to one client and maybe they'll see it on your email signature and go, hey, oh, hang on, I didn't know you did that too.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for marketing and it can be at the bottom of every single email.
That's right. It's such a good point, actually, because I think sometimes when people meet you in a certain circumstance or work with you in a certain circumstance, they kind of box you into that and they don't realise, you know, it's like something like my own business, you know, yes, I declutter and I organise, but I also assist people with relocations, you know, helping them pack and unpack and things like that. And it's like people wouldn't necessarily think of that. You know, you've got to be able to promote those add-ons or those other services that you do.
That's right.
You know,
and it's quite a simple process to do. You can actually, and this is a really simplistic way of doing it if you're not a graphic designer like me, is you build a little picture in Word, right? And you put the photos in the order in little icons where you want them to go. Yeah. And then you actually do a bit of a screen grab and you mush it down to the right size, and then you add that to the bottom of the signature like a JPEG.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so it's actually a really easy way of building a signature in one. Because often if you have all those little icons, sometimes email programs will mush them all around and move them all around a bit.
Yes.
So you have to create a little JPEG unto itself.
Yeah.
Which is all of those things together that sticks at the bottom of your email.
Yeah, otherwise you have emails and they have like 5 attachments.
Yes.
It's like each picture individually. It's annoying.
Yes, and different and it's really hard to adhere across lots of different programs.
Well, I think that's the thing, because everyone has so many different devices that they use to communicate now. You know, it's not just everyone's on the PC. You know, it's like you've got your tablets and your phones and they're all different.
And they'll all respond differently to emails in particular because they're all working off different platforms. Yeah. We're just going to take a quick break now and listen to some community service announcements, and then we will be back talking more with Linda Eagleton from Creative Surrounds. You're listening to Triple H 100.1 FM. And you're back in the room with Small Biz Matters, a half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. We have a very special guest today. Linda Eagleton from Creative Surrounds is with us in the house.
Hello.
And we are talking admin, which is something that we are both so passionate about. Yes. It's a bit scary, actually.
It's a bit, well, yeah, I don't know.
Put the two of us in a room talking about admin for hours. But today we are specialising and we're specifically talking about getting your admin in order for the end of financial year or the beginning of a new financial year, and why that is so important. Just before the break, we were talking about why that's important just from a mental health perspective, not just having, you know, obviously your home in order, that's very important for the place that you live in, but your office too and your office space and, you know, all that time you see looking at a particular thing that you think, oh, I've got to get that organised and add all those times up, and you can easily get it organised. But one of the things we were talking about when we were meeting was the importance of actually diarising the time that you spend doing this for yourself.
Yes.
You know, if you just sit there and you got to say, oh, I've got to do it. Well, just do it. Yeah. Put a slot in the diary.
Yeah. I actually had read something, it was talking about, you know, one of those sort of highly effective people, and it was talking about there was one person who doesn't actually have a to-do list. They just diarise things automatically. So rather than kind of having this long-winded to-do list, they turn around and they actually account for the time then and there.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Right, like if it's that important to you that you're going to put it on a list to do, and it just goes and you think of all the time you waste rewriting your to-do lists. If you actually go, okay, look at that item, yep, realistically I think that's going to take me 20 minutes to get that done. Or if it's a larger project, you know, break it up a bit, put it directly into your diary. It's there.
You have no choice. And there's the other thing to remember is don't break meetings with yourself. Yes. Don't break those appointments, because you've got to give yourself enough respect as you would your clients. You turn off your phone. You turn off the stupid bling, blong, bling noises that come out of your phone, your computer every time there's a Facebook notification. Hey, just get rid of Facebook altogether during 9 to 5. Hey, there's a thought. And actually just keep on top of things. And you spend the time with yourself to get it done. Amazing. You'll actually be quite efficient.
Yes. And
without those interruptions.
And think about when you're efficient as well. You know, are you a morning person? Are you better, you know, just after a coffee? Yes. Like, is it, some people are better in the afternoon, and that's when they can't, it depends on, is your job a physical job as well? And so maybe you're better off getting that aspect over and done with in the morning. And then when it's time to sit and do office work, that's maybe better mid-afternoon. Whatever it is, have a think about when your body acts best.
And we have the luxury of being able to work this in and around our families as well. So don't forget to work this particular thing that you have to do in and around your family time too. Yeah. Because you have to factor that in as an important part, because that's why we do it. That's why we started small businesses. A lot of us is just to be able to spend more time with our family.
Oh, 100%.
Time. You've got to factor that time in too.
Yeah.
So a couple more bits and pieces for practical tips to get organised. Mm-hmm. Limit your in-trays and the number of projects on the go.
Yes. I think, well, first of all, you have to have an in-tray or some sort of a collection area. I think it's interesting the amount of offices that I go into where they literally have piles of things everywhere. There's not one sort of catch-all. And the problem if you just have random piles all over your desk is, one, you don't have an open space to work on. And also, when you do need to do that, you basically pick up a pile and you put it onto another pile to make room. And then what you've done is you're then making more time for yourself, because you have to then go and look at that pile again and divvy it up and go, oh, no, that was for that project, that's that project. So you're wasting time doing that.
Sticky notes are your best friend.
Just separate. Just manila folders, anything, like document wallets, whatever it is. So have an in-tray. And also when you have an in-tray, it's really good to limit that. So once that in-tray is full, that again, then diarise some time and go through it. Take out anything. Be realistic with the amount of projects that you've got on the go. People kind of collect list stuff, going, yes, I'm going to do it. Yes, I'm going to do it. And it's like this wonderful, bright idea at the time. And if you've got 15 things on the go, be realistic about where you want to spend your time in your business. And limit the projects.
It's almost a form of cluttering, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. It's mental and physical clutter again, because you're collecting things for this, amazing project that you're going to do one day, and all you're doing is cluttering up your mind.
And rereading those lists and rewriting those lists and transferring them from one piece of paper to the other. Yeah. Even putting it from one piece of paper into a computer program. All of that does take time.
Absolutely.
It does add up. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And if you were mentioning before about different businesses working differently with the cloud, if you're not in the cloud, it's obviously very important to back up.
Yes.
It's crucial to back up.
Yeah, and you need to put that in the diary. If you've got a physical hard drive, you need to remind yourself, because no one thinks of it. If you've got a hard drive and it's sitting in your bottom drawer or wherever it is in a fireproof safe, whatever, it's out of sight, out of mind, and you don't think about it, and technology does not last forever. Things happen, and especially being so mobile, if we're out and about, if you drop your computer or it gets stolen from your car, anything can happen.
Disastrous.
It's just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. So this is actually a lesson that I learnt the hard way. I did this I think it was about 6 years ago or something, and something happened to my computer and my MYOB file. Yes. So I had to put in about 6 months worth of... Yeah, look at it. If you could see Alexi's eyes right now.
6 months worth of data.
It was hideous. And that was my biggest lesson learnt, So now it's in the diary, the constant backup, and it will never happen again. And that is the one thing that I do have cloud-based now, is my MyOB file.
I am a bit of a fan of cloud-based accounting, as many people will know. It doesn't matter which one it is, just except for FreshBooks. Don't use FreshBooks. I hate FreshBooks. As a bookkeeper or anybody involved in accounting, it's awful. Right. So in terms of adding value to your business, we were talking about that as being one of the topics of today. Obviously, someone walks into your office and is considering purchasing your business, or you're thinking about succession planning, so you're thinking about passing it on to your children.
Yep.
You wouldn't want to pass them on a great big enormous mess, would you?
No. There's many different ways that you might want to project your business and look at, do you want to sell your business? You might want to franchise your business later on. You might want to be in a position where you are purely a manager. But if that's the case, you need to have all of your processes documented. It needs to be something that someone else can just pick up and carry on with.
That's exactly right. And that kind of brings us into the next topic of today, which is all about enabling yourself to be ready for new opportunities. So it's if you sit there and you think of it as a bigger picture thing, and you think of it, okay, well, I want to start taking on a more of a managerial role. I don't really want to be doing the dog's body thing anymore. I think I'm going to start hiring people. Yeah. You can't just hire, so you found the most fabulous person in the world. Even the most fabulous employee in the world is not going to be able to read your mind. So you obviously need to make sure that, you freeing up the time and the space and being ready to hand that over to an employee, it needs to make sense to them, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They need to be able, the amount of time people learn in different ways as well. So it's one thing to, verbally explain processes. Some people are visual people and they want to actually see some sort of a flow chart, or have that to refer back to. You can only retain so much information if you're training someone else or explaining your processes to someone else. You need that physical, document to back that up as well.
And encourage them to write stuff down as well. Yeah. I can't stand it when you're training someone and you're really going, okay, guys, we're going to go hard. This is going to be 3 hours. I'm going to fill your brain. And you just look at them going, you're not writing anything down.
Yeah, you're not going to retain that all.
No. I need you to get a pen. Look here, just take a pen. Yeah. And I find that quite frustrating in terms of, but that you've got to remember that. You've got to remember when you're passing that knowledge on that it does make different sense to different people. But if they don't have any documentation, if you don't have procedural processes, documentation there, how to do things from operational stuff through to work health and safety, what to do in the event of an accident, or what they're covered for in terms of insurance. All these things you really should be sitting down and discussing with them, not only when you're training them, but when you're also doing induction, so that they know what they're walking into.
But even from a sole trader point of view, if you're in the business on your own, and it's at the stage, even prior to that, is at that point, when you're working out your own processes and procedures, is documenting that then and there, because then you can look back as well and go, okay, is that work? That's the time to tweak it. Do you know what I mean? Is sort of start documenting it
as
so you don't have to, because once you're in a certain point in your business, it's quite amazing how much is just assumed knowledge. You forget how much is just, you take so much information for granted. I think when it's your own business and you're totally absorbed in it, when you've got to then pass it on to someone else, it's a much more laborious process. If you're doing it as you go, it's so much easier for you, I think.
And this is one of those things that you need to address during the downtime.
Yes.
This is a good opportunity, not only looking at your marketing strategies and your budgeting and where you want to be in a few years' time, but actually start documenting those processes. Yeah. Because it's not, you don't hire someone when it's really quiet. You hire someone, or you pass on information when it's frantic, and you don't have the time to write it down.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Here you are trying to explain a million things at once to this poor person who really can't, again, read your mind.
And even things like leads as well, when you've got downtime, because if you've had a process in place where if you've had potential leads that haven't actually converted to clients, but if you've documented that process and you've got your list of potential leads in your downtime, that's when you can also access those, and potentially try and convert those people to clients, or just start conversations or networking, those kind of things.
Talk to me about how do you track those leads? How do you track knowing when you've kind of spoken to someone, they were kind of interested, it didn't really happen then? Where do you put that information for yourself?
For me personally, I've got an Excel spreadsheet that I use, and I document, the reason why they contacted me, the date that they contacted me, things that we had discussed in that moment. And then, in my downtimes, I can just really easily access that spreadsheet, have a look through, see who might be a viable person to have a chat with again, even if it's just to touch base, remind them, hey, I'm still here, what's going on?
Want to have a coffee?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny you should say that. I have a different system. I actually use all of those email trails. I throw them into a folder called Contacts and Networking.
Okay.
So they're not necessarily clients, but they're people that I can revisit later on.
Yeah.
And I think it really shows that you can be quite organised if you pull out that email, even if it's 6 months old, and go, hey, I was reading through this email and I remembered we had a chat. Yeah. Let me know if there's anything I can help you with. And also, I probably a bit of doubling up, but I also have a list in my Pocket Lists app, which is Contacts and Networking, which doesn't really mirror that, because I might be having a verbal conversation with someone and they can be on that list. So sometimes you do need that sort of double list system.
Do you know what? I don't think it's a bad thing, because if you're out and about, and you've sort of decided, if you've had some cancellation, an appointment or something like that, and you're at the other end of town, use that time and go, okay, well, I'm going to go and, shout myself a nice lunch, sit in a cafe or whatever, and then you can pull out, if you've got something like Pocket List, which is on your phone, you can access that and make a couple of phone calls.
It is amazing. I've done that a couple of times, actually, when I've just had some spare time in the city and I don't have to rush back. It is quite incredible what being in a different environment to your home, to your work, to on the train, because, if you're like me and you sit in exactly the same seat all the time, which is a bit strange, mix it up a bit, go to a different environment altogether, even not your regular cafe, but a new one.
Yeah.
And it's almost a breath of fresh air, isn't it?
Oh, that's what I love Sydney, because I'm always out and about and exploring, and that's what I love about I've got clients from the Hunter to the eastern suburbs. So I can be like anywhere on any given day. And it's great because, if you finish up early or whatever it might be, or you get there earlier and you've got time for coffee beforehand, to go to a different spot.
You should put that on your Facebook page. You should totally go, I'm sitting in this cafe, look how fabulous it is.
I have got some pictures actually, and it's funnily enough, they're the photos that everyone loves. I'll have photos of all these like beautiful harbourside shots and things like that. And it is like, for me, they're the moments that are actually, that keep me happy as well in my business. I don't want to be in a situation where I go and do work and then I come home and I'm tired, and that's the thing. Enjoy those moments. Find, that's the thing, some nice little cafe. Have a coffee, have a think about your business, people to contact.
It's decluttering your mind, really. Decluttering your space.
It is.
And organising the space around you.
Yeah.
So that's a good chance, like as we were saying earlier, it's a good opportunity to look and revisit those contacts and networking clients that you may not have touched base with. Yeah. It's a good opportunity to, you may not be able to do your budgeting then and there, but you can certainly sit down and go, what do I want to ask myself of my profit and loss? What do I want to see? Where do I want to see where I've spent more money? Has those advertising dollars actually equated to more business? Look at the time, look at the dates you spent those advertising dollars, and then where you saw increases in income. Yeah. Were they correlating?
Yeah.
Or was it a complete waste of time? Because then you know that strategy didn't work and you can move on to the next.
Yeah.
And of course, spend that time sitting down and organising your mind and saying, business development wise, where do I want to go?
I think people, none of us have the luxury of going, okay, great, I've got this, this 5-hour block and I'm going to do this wonderful work. It's it's very rare that happens. So we have to, sorry, you okay?
Choking on my coffee.
Take those moments and enjoy it. There are constant moments in your day when you can knock off items on your to-do list, and embrace those moments. I think, stop waiting for that perfect kind of open day to get everything done and knock off 20 things on your to-do list. It doesn't happen.
It's true.
Be realistic. It's look, even, my favourite thing is Trello. I knew you were. I know you're a big advocate.
Even to the point when my Trello is cluttered, I go, I am so busy. It's all just happening. It's all organised.
But you can look at, even that, you can have a column where you can say, okay, these are things that I can do in 10 minutes or less.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Isn't it? And then you can go, okay, great, I've got 10 minutes, what can I do now?
Yeah, bang, 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 bang.
Yes, totally.
I love that. That's great. That's a great idea. So, use, and I think what a lot of us think about is when we're thinking, I've got to do a process document. So I'm going to open up a brand new Word document and I'm going to stare at a blank page. That's no different from the people who 50 years ago took out a typewriter, put in a piece of paper, did the scrolly action thing, and then looked at a blank, because we are of the age, and looked at that. At that typewriter and just went, it's a blank page.
Yeah.
Maybe don't start with that. Maybe just start with a piece of paper, jot down some bullet points.
Yes.
Yes, or type out just bullet points. Don't even give it a name. Don't even go operational procedure document for my business.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Just go, must remember to do this, this and this.
Yeah.
And then those bullet points, they grow.
Well, even that though, because that's a good opportunity. So if you're someone who you want to just jot down the information and go, okay, I need to have, whatever, a customer form. So I want it to have and you have your bunch of bullet points, then that's something that you can potentially outsource. You don't have to be the one that sits there. Exactly. You don't have to be the one that's, because I think that's the thing. If people look at a whole project, they become paralysed, especially if you're, like me, who's a perfectionist. Sometimes if you look at something as a whole thing, you're like, oh my gosh, it has to be amazing. I'm not going to start it until I have this phenomenal end product.
In my head.
Exactly. And then you never begin it. So the best thing is, get down your bullet points and then outsource that. You know, you don't have to you're not going to have the expertise in everything. I'm not a graphic designer. That's not what I do. I'm better off going, this is the information that I want to have, and then here you go, pass it on to someone else. It's much more efficient for me to pay someone else that's going to take them half an hour, or I can sit there and ponder over it and it's going to take me 2 hours.
And that is something that we talk about a lot on the show, is outsourcing. And not because, you know, obviously we want to share the love and we want people around in the local area who've got so much local expertise, and pretty much anything you need to get done can be done here in Hornsby, Ku-ring-gai. But what you need to think about is, how much is your time worth? How much can you earn an hour?
Yes.
So if you go, I charge my clients this an hour, and I can get someone doing my admin for me at this an hour, I'm still making money. And as long as you say to yourself, well, that person's working, I'm working, therefore I'm still in profit for that period of time, and then it makes more sense.
Absolutely.
So it's a really important task, and we've talked about this a number of times on the show, is to write down all your overheads and then divide them by 48 for the number of weeks in a year, because, you know, we take 4 weeks off. And then you divide that number by 38 hours in a week, you know, because we only work 38 hours a week.
Yes.
And that will give you an hourly rate of what it costs to run your business.
I think it's so key. It's,
I met a plumber once. And I said, I was doing my admin thing with him, and he goes, okay, how much does it cost you to run a business? And he goes, $67.47. I went, wow.
Brilliant.
You've done this.
Brilliant.
And he knew.
But it should be. You have to, whether it's a service or a product, you have to look at your own time and how much is it that it's costing me to work in this business on an hourly rate. And exactly, that's the thing, is like, then look at other ways that you can outsource. You know, should I... bookkeeping,
social media,
accounting, social media, graphic design, organising, anything. Like, look at those costs of how much it's going to be to outsource those things versus how much for me to work on my business.
We're going to take a short break now and listen to some community service announcements. You are listening to Small Biz Matters on Triple H, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. And good morning. Welcome back to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. We are in the house talking all things admin with Linda Eagleton from Creative Surrounds. Thanks for joining us today. It's been a fun-filled, very exciting topic, which for the two of us...
we're enjoying it anyway.
We can talk for hours. But what we're hoping to give to our listeners today is some practical strategies on getting yourselves organised, particularly at this time of year for the new financial year, whether it be your budget, whether it be marketing strategies, whether it be very simple things like process documents, and really the best use of your time. And I think that's one of the things that our listeners can walk away from with today, is finding ways and little strategies to find the time to do things that are so important that we just don't do. We just don't end up doing. So we're talking about earlier before the break about making it make sense to others. Quite often when we employ people or even bring on a contractor, it's because we are crazy busy and we don't have time to pass that information on. So use your downtimes to create documents. So what sort of process documents would you have as a suggestion to do during that downtime?
I think definitely your procedures that you have. So different steps. I think if you try to think about whether it's a product or a service that you're in, think about that process from the beginning to the end, sort of a life cycle.
Even if it's a service?
Absolutely, because, you know, you got to think, well, when a customer first contacts me, what happens? How do I capture that information? You know, and whether they are just a potential lead or whether they convert to a client. So if they, you know, are a lead, they go here. If they're a potential client, then what happens? You know, and then we have to document that process, you know, diarising the time to see them. What are we going to do when we, in that first appointment, when we go and meet with our customer? You know, what are we going to discuss? All the steps along the way, right through to the end, including follow-up, you know, what happens, and documenting those processes.
And it's also very good to, at that point, you start breaking down even further and saying, well, when I go and meet that client, what sort of documentation am I going to have with me?
Yeah.
Am I going to have the confidentiality agreement?
Yes.
Am I going to have, you know, an estimate or a proposal already, or is that something that happens after I've met with them? So
yes.
By the time you've done this half a dozen times and you've started meeting with your clients, it becomes more solidified and more, and that's why it's a good opportunity to write it down as you go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's never too late to do that, really, even if you're into your 20th or 30th client.
No, and because it's something that's going to get tweaked as well. Like, it's not, I mean, as your business grows and develops over time, you know, I mean, how you first did something is not even, 2 years later, it's going to be different, It might be a different way that you're getting these clients or contacting these clients, and the way that you go about it, it's going to be much more streamlined.
And for those of you who are struggling with a procedural document and how to start, it's easy because it's chronological.
Yes.
So actually write the document as you go with your processes. Have that document open on your screen for a little while, and then as you do each of those steps with that particular client, mesh it out as a step-by-step process on the bullet points. And again, don't try and make it into a perfectly formatted document.
No.
That can come later.
Yeah.
It's the content that you've got to sort of data dump. It's your data dumping from your mind onto the page, and then it's out when you started it, which is great.
Absolutely.
Well, we've got, if you want to bring on new employees, obviously the induction process.
Yes.
Very important.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realise this, but you have to obviously have workers' compensation insurance for employees the moment they start. What they don't realise that you have certain obligations in terms of an induction procedure in order to meet the requirements of that workers' comp, because otherwise you actually can be seen as negligent as an employer.
Even when you're, if you're sitting at a desk, you're meant to run through an ergonomic scenario with them, and get them set up correctly. All of those things are part of a process.
And do they know where the fire escape is?
Yeah.
Do they really, really know? Do they know that if they turn on the hot tap in the kitchen on level 2 of this building, it's really hot?
Yes.
You need to tell them these things, where the toilets are, what to do in case of an emergency.
Yeah.
That should also be part of your induction process.
Yeah.
And again, just something you can be jotting points down.
Yeah.
Operational manuals.
Yes.
This is where your area of expertise is really going to come into it. Someone who's got a plumbing operational manual is going to be pretty detailed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where the training of staff it's the basis of your training of staff. Software use. Process manuals.
Yeah, well, things like your accounting software, if that is something that, depending on at what level you manage it yourself versus outsourcing to a bookkeeper, and before it gets to the accountant, how do you capture that information? What is the software that you're using? What are the different steps of how to capture all of that information?
And how to capture your information, because everybody behaves differently in their accounting software.
Yeah, definitely. What's important to you? Like some packages, have got different components as to what's important in your business. Some people might want to capture, they might want to break down the particular services that they offer. Some people might want to only have 2 or 3 categories. Some people might have 10 categories,
That's exactly right. And some people might want the word telephone to be mobile and internet, and some people might want to break that down into mobile and internet into 2 different categories.
Yeah, that's right.
So unless you actually write it down, you have no hope of being able to hand that over to a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Unless you get one of those really control freak bookkeepers who go, well, you've been doing that all wrong and I'm going to do it this way. You don't want one of them. Not if you've been running your own system for quite a while. Yeah. Staff manuals, that's a really obvious one once someone begins.
Yeah.
And a staff manual is not an operational procedure. An operational procedure is how to do stuff when they're actually working. A staff manual is what you expect from them in terms of their code of conduct, their policies and how they behave in front of clients or in the office, their confidentiality, their social media use policy.
Yeah.
Everybody should have one of those now, say what you expect.
Yes.
And can I just remind everybody, however simple or detailed your staff manual is, the back page should always be a tick box of all the elements in the staff manual that the person ticks and then signs and dates to say that they've read it.
That they've done it.
It's not a legal document, not by any stretch. But if they've said that they've read it, then you can say in a court of law, well, I did give them this, they did read it, and they've signed it, and here's the evidence to show that. So it's just about, watching your back.
Yeah.
Making sure your accounts are completely up to date. We harp on about this all the time. It's so important to declutter your mind, financially.
But also to see how you're tracking. If you're leaving all of your bookkeeping until the end of the financial year, how on earth do you know how well you've gone? I mean, it's not right to just look at a bank balance. Even if you've only got one account, it's still not enough because you don't know, what are you paying in taxes? What are you paying in GST? What have your outgoings been versus, purchases for resale, all those sort of things. You don't capture any of that information. So unless you've been on top of your bookkeeping on a regular basis, you really will have no idea where you truly stand.
That's right. And a good accountant at the end of the financial year, when they're doing some tax planning, should sit down with you and look at your tax planning year on year and tell you where your growth has been, and they should have that conversation with you. That's really the difference between a good accountant and someone who just punches out the numbers.
Well, that's where you can see where it's a value of your time as well. It's like, these are the things that are really growing my business and bringing in the dollars, and this is where I want to focus more, versus, I actually spend this many hours and this is all I'm bringing in for this component of my business. It doesn't make sense.
That's right. Exactly. So knowing where you spend the time, the money, the effort versus where the income comes in, you need to be able to balance it out as you go.
Yes.
Not right at the end of the year with 12 months worth of data.
Yeah.
Another really good practical thing you can create in that downtime is an estimate and proposal document. It looks so much more professional when you have a cover page and then your estimates and a couple of terms and conditions that are written on your estimate.
Yes.
And if you are going to put, and I have this issue with a few of the businesses that I work with, if you're going to ask people to sign a proposal document and an estimate document, don't start the work until they've done so.
Yeah.
If you're asking for them to sign and you just go, it's fine, they've said yes verbally in an email. No. Stick by your procedures.
Absolutely, especially if you've got, I think one of the things which is really important is cancellation policies. If they haven't signed that document beforehand, if you have an appointment with someone and you driving there and they ring up and cancel, or you turn up and they're not there, if you haven't got a cancellation policy in place and it's a document that they've signed beforehand, that's it. That's lost income for the whole day for you.
And that's actually a really good point. We're going to be having a guest on the show in a couple of weeks' time who is a lawyer who specialises in recouping lost income from small businesses. And even the discussion I had with him, it's very difficult to recoup losses if you don't have any documentation that client has signed.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially if you're in the service industry and you've got no evidence that proves that you handed over the work.
Yes.
And that's a scary place to be.
Yeah, all you've got is basically a note in your diary to say, this is where I was on this date. That's it. Yeah.
And although that is a legal document, it's not exactly binding.
No.
And he says so many times the majority of his clients are actually in the creative services industry.
Yeah.
Because what they produce is not really sort of tangible. It's not a product that's been, effectively delivered to the doorstep.
Yes.
It's more sort of concepts and creatives and you need to, and that goes...
Well, that's your IP. And,
exactly. Yeah, that goes to valuing yourself and valuing your business, which is so important as well.
Yeah.
So just to recoup, what am I trying to say? Recap. Recoup everything we've said. Just to recap everything we've said, we've sort of been talking at the beginning of the show about adding value to your business through the organisation process, why it's important to think about it at this time of year. It's a very logical time using your financials as a basis, but also revisiting the contacts and networking that you've made throughout the year, maybe talking to them again, asking them if they need your services, or even just offering to have a sit down and a chat with them, and no obligation coffee.
No, just touch base.
Exactly. It's a good time. Looking at your down times, looking at the periods of time when you can be next time, the rest of the next financial year is looking at when you can be writing out these documents. And even if you start with just a wish list, here's the documents I'd really like to have, because, we're not all sitting on the perch for the next 100 years.
Yeah.
We do need to, at the back of our mind, think about, what's the value of your business. Anybody who sat down and got a mortgage lately would know that, the value of your business is tangible.
Yes.
Because the mortgage valuer, what's the word? What am I trying to think of? The mortgage broker will ask you questions like, how many clients have you got? What's your turnover?
Yeah.
And they'll value it.
Yeah.
And you go, oh my God.
Yes.
It's actually worth something.
Something viable.
Yeah, have something that's tangible.
Yes.
So you need to think of it as something that's worthwhile and give it the respect that most likely your clients give you.
Yeah. Differentiate between, is this a hobby or is this a business?
No, it's always a business.
If it's a business, and if it is a business, that's the thing. Be serious about it.
Yes, exactly. Don't just go, I'm just biding my time while
just pottering along.
No, make it a business. Make it, because it values your time and makes you look more professional. And that goes to the last topic we were talking about, which is making it make sense to others.
Yes.
I often say when we talk about the induction processes and employees on the show and bringing on employees for the first time, you need to look professional to them as well.
Yeah. Well, it has to make sense to other people. It's, when you start out and you are potentially actually just a sole trader and you're kind of in reactive mode, and you're doing things as they come along. Oh gosh, I've got to do something for this. Yep, okay, and you try and get that done. The problem with that is that when other people come along, if you become ill or if you want to grow your business, whatever it is, and there's someone else that has to come into your space and try to keep things running along for you, if it only makes sense to you in your head, it's just not possible. It's not feasible to move forward from someone else's perspective. If they come in and try and find things and they can't, it's such a barrier.
And I think that these are really the first few steps for succession planning. I think if we were to get a succession planning lawyer in the room, of which there are quite a few in the area, I think the first question they're going to ask is, are your financials up to date?
Yeah.
When was the last time you did, are all your BASs and your tax returns done? And then they go, where is your documentation and your manuals and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And then they say, and then they will put all that together in a package that looks, it looks interesting for potential buyers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So everyone should be thinking about that as a bigger picture thing.
Yeah,
indeed,
definitely.
Indeed. Well, thank you for coming on the show today, Linda. It's been joyous.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Excellent. And look, for those of you who are interested in listening to the full podcast, it will be available in the next couple of days on the smallbizmatters.com.au website. There you can also find a full list of all events, networking, marketing, strategizing, conferences, anything you can get your hands on the Upper North Shore for businesses. They will be available on our event calendar. So jump onto the smallbizmatters.com.au website and find out all the events that are coming up. Good opportunities like networking and things that the council might be doing. Definitely what the Chamber of Commerces are doing in the local area, just to get yourselves educated. There's some great free workshops around and very low priced workshops as well that are available. So check those out and definitely jump onto the blogs, podcast page. Plus, don't forget to check us out in the monthly Chronicle articles, which are available every month in our fabulous local paper. So thanks for coming on the show, Linda.
Thank you.
Hope to see you coming on. We'll probably we'll do a reprise.
Yes.
In another 6 months or so, we'll go, have you done all those things we talked about?
Yes.
Indeed. Maybe we'll do a Christmas edition.
Yes.
Get yourself organised for that's some downtime.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Well, it's everyone's New Year's resolution, isn't it?
Yes.
Get organised.
Yeah. Yes. But I always find that a bit overwhelming, actually. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. We'll see you all next week, 9 a.m. Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. You're listening to Triple H 100.1 FM.